I think it's a question we have all asked. Are we alone in the universe? And while I've never seen anything personally that would make me think we're not, plenty of people have, and the government has spent decades collecting information, but not really sharing any of it. So our next guest, he wrote a book about it and will be in Grand Rapids discussing his findings. It's called UFO, the inside story of the U.S. government's search for alien life here and out there. Garrett Graff is the best-selling author, journalist, and historian. He's joining us via Zoom this morning. Thanks so much for being with us.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right. So you know, you're a magazine journalist. You cover national security, cybersecurity. You're a historian. So how does that branch out to you doing research on UFOs?
In the last couple of years, we've seen this really major shift in the way that the U.S. government talks about UFOs, what the Pentagon now actually calls UAPs, unidentified anomalous phenomenon. And I've noticed, as someone covering national security, serious people beginning to talk seriously about this subject. People like former CIA Director John Brennan, people like former President Barack Obama, talking about how the UFO phenomenon puzzles them, but to them that there's something real to it. And those comments made me interested in diving into the history of this subject and the interplay between, you know, the public imagination, Hollywood pop culture, and the government's national security concerns.
Yeah, and it really does all tie together. You know, you talk a lot about the Cold War and how that got people thinking, and then, you know, we're looking at Chinese balloons in the air and things like that, and people's imaginations run wild. Hollywood obviously lends big time into that. So talk about a little bit about, you know, where we're at right now and how maybe. Are we going to hear any more information from the government? Do you know, I want to learn more.
Yeah, this probably is the most serious conversation that the U.S. government has had about UFOs and UAPs since the late 1940s, when the first flying saucer phenomenon really arrived in 1947 in that summer, when that idea of extraterrestrials and UFOs and flying saucers really came together for the first time. What we are seeing is, I think, the government recognizing that there is something to UAPs. There's something puzzling here. It may not be physical objects. It may be phenomenon, meteorological, astronomical, atmospheric phenomenon. It might be physics that we don't understand, but that you are seeing a very concerted push on Capitol Hill. There were hearings both last summer and the year before that looking at UFOs. You have new offices at NASA and at the Pentagon looking into this, trying to study these objects and sightings better. So I'm hopeful that we are really seeing a turn in the way that the government thinks about this, and that we might actually begin to get to the bottom of some of this mystery in the years ahead.
I appreciate that. And of course, you're going to be in Grand Rapids speaking at the Gerald Ford Presidential Library. And so he actually was very into this, and he played a role in kind of getting some of this information out there back when he was speaker. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, this is actually one of the fun parts of this history is every corner of the country has its own UFO lore and mythology. Michigan in the mid-1960s saw some of the highest profile UFO sightings of that era, with Hillsdale College and Gerald Ford, then the congressman in Michigan, was unsatisfied with the government's answers and pushed for what were, in fact, in 1966, the first congressional hearings ever on UFOs.
I love that. I love that correlation. And so talk about anything that really sticks out in your mind. What surprised you as you were doing research into this book?
So the book really tries to weave together both the government's study of UFOs here on Earth and the broader search and evolving science by astronomers around the search for extraterrestrial intelligence across the universe. And one of the things that really startled me as I got into it was realizing this revolution in our understanding of the size and scope of the universe in the last quarter century, that the math is really on the side of the aliens, that we have come to understand that there are planets all over the universe, a huge number of them on the order of 1 sextillion, that's a billion trillion habitable planets likely exist across the universe for life as we know it. And that our universe probably actually teems with both life and intelligent life. Whether any of it is close enough that we will ever have contact with it, whether any of it overlaps with us at this particular moment in our universe's history, those are the questions that the scientists are beginning to really wrestle with. But certainly it seems like life is probably not as rare across the universe as we once thought it was.
What a fascinating conversation. We really, really appreciate your time, Garrett. Thank you so much. And of course, you're making a trip here. So if you want to ask him the questions, he will be here today, January 25th at the Gerald R. Ford Presidential Museum. The program begins at 6:30. There's a book signing at 7:45. You want to learn more, GeraldFordFoundation.org.